A day after Israel begins reducing fuel supplies to the Gaza Strip, the European Union signals its disapproval and human rights groups are outraged. Are Israel's new sanctions against 1.5 million Palestinians justified, or is this a classic case of collective punishment? This is Inside Story. Hello, I'm Imran Gabda. Israel's Supreme Court has given the government 5 days to justify its decision to limit fuel supplies to Gaza. It follows a petition from 10 human rights groups and criticism from the EU, which has warned Israel against imposing a collective punishment on Gaza's people. Well, on Sunday, Israel began cutting fuel shipments to Gaza as part of sanctions in response to missile attacks on the Jewish state. It's reduced fuel supplies for the Strip's main power plant and has cut the amount of petrol it supplies by an estimated 30%. It's also threatened periodic electricity cuts. The sanctions come after Israel declared Gaza a hostile entity last month. They'll affect the 1.5 million Palestinians in the Strip, where Hamas seized control in June. Well, in a press conference with the Israeli president on Monday, the EU's Commissioner for External Relations, Benita Ferrero-Waldner, told reporters in Jerusalem that fuel cuts will have very grave consequences for the citizens of Gaza.
I'm indeed very concerned about it because, we have been asked also by Israel to help to have the Gazan population at least live under, I would say, normal conditions. And indeed, the humanitarian conditions are now being worse and worse. I think collective punishment is never a solution.
Now, Israel officially disengaged from Gaza in 2005, but Human Rights Watch, the UN and the International Red Cross all say that Israel still effectively occupies the Strip. Israel is in full control of Gaza's airspace. This means Israel can interfere with radio and TV broadcasts and monitor the 1.5 million people living there. Israel effectively controls Gaza's coast. The Navy limits the free movement of Gaza's 3,000 fishermen who depend on it for their livelihood. There are only 5 border crossings between Gaza and Israel, and all 5 are under Israeli control. They closed the border crossing at Sufa on Monday. Well, as an occupying force, Israel would have obligations under the 4th Geneva Convention. It states collective penalties and likewise all measures of intimidation, of terror or of terrorism are prohibited. Well, joining our discussion today are our guests. Firstly, in Jerusalem, Mark Regev, spokesman for the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In Gaza, Fawzi Barhoum, a Hamas spokesman. And in Ramallah, Abdullah Abdullah, a Fatah MP and chairman of the PLC Political Committee. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. If I could start off with Mr. Regev first, sir. Cutting off fuel and electricity supplies to Gaza, many would say and have said that that's quite indefensible from your end.
There is no collective punishment. There's no cutting off of total supplies. On the contrary. And I can tell the Europeans, I can tell others, that Israel is committed to making sure that vital humanitarian aid, foodstuffs, medicine, power and so forth will continue to flow to Gaza.
What do you hope to achieve by punishing the people of Gaza?
The people of Gaza, the Palestinian people of Gaza, are not our enemy. On the contrary. We seek peace with the Palestinians. We want to move forward in a peace process with the Palestinians. Our enemy is the regime that currently runs the Gaza Strip, that is responsible for these daily missile barrages from Gaza into Israel. They're trying to kill our people. As you know, in the last 4 months, there's been more than 1,000 rockets and missiles fired from Gaza into Israel, into our cities, into our communities. And this is obviously not sustainable. And I think the regime in Gaza has to understand that it can't be business as usual as long as these rockets are being fired from Gaza into Israel.
So you have no qualms whatsoever depriving effectively 1.5 million people of proper fuel and electricity supplies, people who are under your occupation?
First of all, the issue of occupation is a complicated issue. If you know your international law, you'll know the important words are in international law, the concept of effective control. And to say that the Israelis are in effective control of the Gaza Strip today is frankly ludicrous. Even the Palestinian government will tell you that the people who run Gaza today is Hamas that has seized control there. If we were in effective control, you wouldn't see these missile barrages coming day after day, week after week from Gaza, trying to kill our people. I'd remind you, in 2005, we pulled down all the settlements. Those settlers that didn't want to leave were forcibly asked to be removed. We removed them. We pulled out all our police and military forces. We redeployed behind our side of the international frontier.
Well, you mentioned Hamas. If you could bear with us, I'd like to bring in Fawzi Barhoum in Gaza. Mr. Barhoum, your response to Mark Regev and the restrictions that the Israelis are imposing.
First of all, his speech is not true, because all of the Palestinians here in Gaza, at West Bank and Jerusalem under complete occupation. So according to Geneva Convention, they have to respect their victims as a civilian people, and they must provide them with all type of foods and goods and support and fuel. But now, as we are living here in Gaza under collective punishment from the Israeli occupation, and now we are under siege and embargo about 25 of January 2006, after the Palestinian people sharing the world at the democratic process. So this mass or collective punishment till now, including reducing of foods and goods and fuel to the Palestinians, and there is a bloody letters which was sent to us daily by the occupation tanks and helicopters against the innocent people and mothers and fathers and elderly and the children. Today, about 5 persons was killed, and about 2 days before, about 10 persons as the Palestinians was killed. So there is a bloody letters and ethical letters and humanitarian letters was sent to us by the occupation tanks and helicopters daily against the Palestinian people. So a massive punishment using all destructive weapons, a collective punishment using all unethical and humanitarian procedure in order to punish the Palestinians, because the Palestinian people exactly here in Gaza votes as a majority for Hamas at 25 of January 2006. Now, this collective punishment, because the Palestinian people votes for Hamas, I want to assure that there is a plan which was approved by American administration and by the Israeli occupation in order to destroy everything, to destroy the people here in Palestine, to destroy the land, to destroy the Palestinians' willing and determination, in order to let them change their mind from any thought about Jerusalem and the Middle State and the detainees and the refugees, in order just to think about the daily ordinary life. This is a plan from America which was implemented now by these Israeli occupation letters, including bloody letters, daily bloody letters to the Palestinians.
All right. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Forgive me for interrupting you. I want to go back to Mr. Regev. Mr. Regev, when do you envisage that you'll stop all embargoes and sanctions against the Palestinians in Gaza and remove the hostile entity tag?
The hostile entity tag was not something that we decided. It was descriptive of a situation that became in Gaza after Hamas took over. The reality is that though we pulled out all the settlements, we pulled out our military forces, there are constant barrages from the Gaza Strip into Israel. As I said, 1,000 rockets over the last 4 months. They're trying to kill our people. Any democracy, any member of the UN would not allow its citizens to be targeted in the way the Israeli public is in the south. And I'd add, if I may, unfortunately, this extremist group Hamas is holding not only the Israeli population in the southern part of the country hostile to these barrages, they're holding the people of Gaza hostage to their extreme agenda, because the people of Gaza, I think, want these terrible rocket attacks to stop, because if these attacks did cease, of course, everything could return to normal.
Let's go to Mr. Abdullah Abdullah in Ramallah. Your reaction to the restrictions, sir, does it affect the people in the West Bank as well?
Listen, the Palestinians in the West Bank, in Gaza, or in East Jerusalem, or in the diaspora, they are one people. And Israel is missing the point. The sanctions against Gaza is not only to show that they are punishing the Gazans for their rocket attacks. This is just absurd. The Israeli policy is determined to spoil any peace effort, any progress towards solution of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And this is only one of the manifestations of that policy. The continued attack against the Palestinians in Gaza Strip, in Khan Yunis, in Beit Lahia, in Beit Hanun, in Rafah, in Nablus, in Ramallah, in Bethlehem, and the confiscation of land, the continuation with the destructive policies of Israel, that is all termed as being anti-peace, is meant to spoil any peace effort especially at a time when there is and probably some euphoria of peace activities in the region to push forward the peace process. The anti-peace movement in Israel, whether it is united or fragmented but joined with a common denominator, is very happy with the efforts taken by this Israeli government, sometimes calling Gaza a hostile entity, sometimes imposing sanctions, sometimes going into Nablus, destroying, killing, kidnapping, or confiscating land in east of Jerusalem and desecrating the holy places of Jerusalem. Israel, if it is seriously concerned about the safety of its citizens, then it should not endanger the safety of the Palestinians, whether in Khan Yunis or in Ramallah. It's the same. One Palestinian people.
Okay, I'd like to bring in Mr. Regev to respond to that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Abdullah. Mr. Regev, you'd like to respond to that, endangering the safety of your own citizens and also playing into the hands of extremist elements within Israeli society with a disproportionate response to rocket attacks. How do you respond to that?
I think if you look at the threat that Israel is facing with these rockets, as I said, 1,000 in the last 4 months, I think we've been very cautious in our response. And ultimately, the sort of things we're debating today in the Israeli government are non-violent responses. And I think that has to be considered. I've just come from a meeting where we've had preparatory talks on our side as we move forward with the Palestinians in peace talks. And we want to move forward. We're looking forward to this summit meeting in Annapolis. We're looking forward to moving forward on the roadmap. We want a historical reconciliation. We believe in two states, Israel and Palestine living side by side in peace. Unfortunately, it's clear, though, that extremists like Hamas, like Islamic Jihad, who oppose peace and reconciliation, are going to intensify their terrorist war in order to destroy the peace process. We can't let them do that.
All right, Mark Regev in Jerusalem, spokesman for the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thank you very much for joining us. You'll be leaving us now. Gentlemen in Ramallah and Gaza, stay with us, and you stay with us, the viewer. Time for a short break. When we come back, we'll examine the role of the UN in Gaza and ask whether the enclave is being used by Palestinian rival politicians to make political gains. Do stay with us.